So as most of my followers know, I've never really made videos about mainstream movies or TV shows before. Sure, I've talked about bad movies here and there, but nothing too recognizable.
What?
I'm done. I literally quit. So today I thought I'd dip my toes in the pool of mainstream cinema, and who knows, if this goes well, you may be hearing my unwanted opinion about movies more often, good or bad. Speaking of unwanted opinions, today we're going to be comparing a spin-off series to its predecessor and hit trilogy, The Karate Kid. Yes, I said trilogy. I have no recollection of any fourth movie with a very specific girl. Anyway, and to be clear for any of you who have not seen the movies, I'm not referring to the Jaden Smith remake, which is arguably better than the original, but we're not gonna get into that. Alright, so before we get into the comparison, I have to introduce you to the fighters. On your left, we have a film veteran, one that's been remembered for decades, an inspirational story about a kid who learns karate. The Karate Kid. And on your right, we have a sort of newcomer, but don't worry, he's here to prove himself tonight. Here he is, an inspirational story about multiple kids that learn karate. I introduce you to Disney's hit show, Kickin' It! What? Oh, it's not Kickin' It? Oh, shoot, my bad. Let's just do take two real quick, okay? So allow me to introduce you to Cartoon Network's hit show, Ninjago! It's not Ninjago either? That's such a good show. Oh, it's Cobra Kai. Guys, it's Cobra Kai. I'm aware the fourth and possibly final season isn't out yet or even in production, but if I waited that long, I'd forget about this video. So we're doing it now. Yes, the AC turned off. You guys hear that? Yeah, that's right, you don't, because the AC turned off. I just said that. Now, in order to figure out which one is better overall, I'll be comparing three things. I'll be comparing the plot, the characters, and the fighting. And please keep in mind that this is all my opinion. Obviously, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but if you don't agree with any of my statements, feel free to let me know in the comments. Just please do it in a nice way. Men have feelings too. I shouldn't have to say this, but I don't want to get hate crimed, so this video contains spoilers. If you have not seen the show and want to watch it, I suggest doing that first and then coming back to my video right after, because where else would you go? Alright, let's begin.
Fight!
Starting off with the Karate Kid trilogy plot. Now, I'm really only going to be focusing on the first movie, seeing that the plot is pretty much identical throughout all three. I mean, you got your boy gets bullied, boy learns karate, boy wins fight. They just rinse and repeat, probably because the first one did so well. Oh, and also, Daniel, the main character, yeah, he has a new love interest every movie, which is funny because we find out he doesn't end up with any of them in Cobra Kai. All right, so the first half of the first Karate Kid movie is great. I love the pacing, I love how we're introduced to the characters. I especially love that when Daniel's at his lowest and feels completely isolated, Mr. Miyagi is able to comfort him and give him that friendship that he really needs. And although this bond is expected in the beginning of the movie, I think that a lot of people originally just anticipated the student-mentor relationship and not the sympathetic friendship that we got with it. And it's because of this bond that the training arc is so great. Not only was the concept of cleaning and doing chores to learn karate creative and original, but I also love how it's paced throughout the movie. Daniel trains over periods of time, increasingly getting more annoyed with his chores instead of just, you know, a straight 10-minute montage. This ultimately pays off in the most satisfying way possible because we get to see that, you know, he isn't actually doing chores, he's learning karate, and that's exciting to the viewers. It sucks for me though, because I did a lot of chores and didn't learn any karate. Thanks, Mom. Now, my issues with the movie stem with the start of the tournament, and that may come as a surprise, but let me explain. On rewatch, I felt that the pacing was really rushed, especially during the last fight, not because it was quick, but because there wasn't any music. And when there's no music, it's really hard to build suspense at all. And not to mention the final kick, the one that won it all, happened instantly. And you could argue,
Saji, that's not realistic. Kicks don't actually happen in slow motion.
yeah, but they're a lot cooler when they do. No, but the movie hardly builds up any suspense beforehand, and they definitely don't give us enough time to process after. Seriously, whose idea was it to cut the movie right after the fight? I mean, it doesn't even make sense from a business standpoint. We already know who won. What are you building suspense to? Their reactions? Oh my god, there's 10 seconds left. Come on. All they need is a touchdown and it's over. Double dribble. And he scores, winning the series, Super Bowl, NBA playoff format. Oh, Jake? To unlock this reaction, come back next year. What? Next year? This is my house. Jake, it's been exactly a year, and you haven't moved. Mannequin Challenge was like 4 years ago. Can you just give your reaction now and get the hell out of my house? Let's go! Now, this abrupt end happens in all three movies, which means that the entire trilogy of The Karate Kid happened in 1 year. In that 1 year, our boy Daniel learns karate, wins a tournament, goes to Okinawa, learns more karate, wins a fight to the death, learns more karate, and wins another tournament. Psh, Daniel LaRusso? More like Daniel really busy doing a lot of things, getting into a lot of fights and stuff. Alright, moving on to Cobra Kai. Now, honestly, this show is just massive fan service, but done right. Alf Macchio recently said in an interview that Cobra Kai is
fan service, but it's relevant storytelling.
Which is a great way to put it, because I absolutely love the idea of the show. Especially because in The Karate Kid, we don't get to see a lot of Cobra Kai. All we know is that they're big bad bullies and their sensei's a psychopath. And before you go commenting,
Daniel was the real bully.
shut the up. Shut up. And before you go commenting,
Saji, you said if we don't agree with you, then we can...
shut the up. You can shut up. Daniel was definitely a prick, but Johnny and his friends were 110% bullying him. Sure, there were reasons, but there's no valid excuse to jump someone with your friends, push someone off of a cliff, and then make fun of someone's financial circumstances in front of their mommy.
I really like your car, Mrs. LaRusso.
And if you even try to bring up the scene where Daniel sprays water at Johnny while he's lighting up a J, I will block you. Tell me, would you rather be soaking wet or have bruises and broken ribs? Anyway, where the hell were we? Right. Lack of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. Now, the third movie went a little bit more in-depth into Cobra Kai, you know, with the whole Terry Silver thing. Which, by the way, Terry Silver, whose idea was it to add a character like Terry Silver? He's like my least favorite character in all of the Karate Kid, and I know I'm bitching a lot, but bro, I've never seen a man more obsessed with wanting to get revenge on a kid. You're a grown man! Anyway, by the third movie, we didn't really learn anything new about Cobra Kai, but this show really brings a whole new perspective, and it really makes us feel empathy for Johnny as well. And it also shows us that Cobra Kai isn't necessarily the bad guy. It's John Kreese. Again, that guy's a psychopath. Now, I think the beginning of the show is where its strengths really shine. I love that we get to see Johnny and how messed up his life is while LaRusso is sitting pretty with his car dealership. The way Johnny restarts Cobra Kai in an attempt to get his life back together, but then gets knocked back down by his past life decisions, was a really great way to make us feel empathy for him. This also forced Johnny to train students that he wouldn't necessarily be training if it weren't for his financial circumstances. I also love the ending of season 3. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's what I've been hoping for since we got reintroduced to Kreese. Speaking of which, Kreese's involvement in the plot does make sense, but it's kind of predictable. And that's a problem that kind of shows up a lot because this movie is basically an improved sequel of the first Karate Kid movie. Oh, and one other thing. This isn't really part of the plot, but I just have to say it. This show can be really corny. Like super f***ing corny. William Zabka can pull off most of his corny lines.
Put one of those hash browns at the end, you know, like hash brown team Cobra Kai or something. And then send it to the internet!
But man, do some of the high schoolers make me cringe. Either their lines are off or they deliver it awkwardly because they're prepubescent. I don't know. It's just hard to take a kid like this seriously, especially after he just Fortnite danced on us. Okay, but seriously, who is this kid? It's been 3 seasons and I still don't know his name. With that being said, the better plot, in my opinion, goes to Cobra Kai. Now, I am comparing the trilogy to the show. If I was just comparing the first movie, then I'd give it to The Karate Kid, just because the plot is so good, they just reuse it 2 more times, drying out any originality. On top of that, Cobra Kai fills in the holes that the movies left, as well as giving us a fresh new perspective in an original way. Alright, time for the characters. Again, I absolutely love the bond between Daniel and Mr. Miyagi throughout the entire trilogy. Mr. Miyagi fills the father role for Daniel while concurrently playing the film's comedic relief, but it isn't in a forced way. It feels fluid, almost as if Pat Morita was improvising.
Hey, Mr. Miyagi, look.
Man, this is some bullshit.
Daniel's love interests are fine. I mean, they get cut out, so it really doesn't matter. Now, I did mention Cobra Kai already. We don't really know a lot about them. which I actually think is okay in this context. I mean, we have Daniel going through a series of events to overcome being bullied, and he's able to do so on an even playing field without like some edge or advantage like Cobra Kai has the majority of the film. In fact, in the final fight, he has a huge disadvantage, but is still able to win. And within this context, we don't really need to know anything about the antagonists because they're just being used for the protagonist character development. I also want to talk about the dialogue in this movie, and this goes for all movies made in like the 70s or the 80s or whenever the I wasn't alive. The dialogue in these films was so uncut and natural that it just added a whole nother layer of realism to it. The actors stammered and went off on tangents, and it was just so perfectly imperfect. Because, you know, no one can speak fluidly like they do in modern day media. This is another element within these films that makes the characters more relatable and personal.
How you jump?
Oh, it's pretty easy. It's, I start on my knee. You just go one at a time, one.
That is exactly how awkward teenagers flirt. If you make it overly awkward, it just becomes unrealistic and cringy. Which leads me to Cobra Kai.
All right, I gotta get back to work. See you later, babe.
Now don't get me wrong, I love some of the characters in Cobra Kai. Some of them. Now obviously I love all the old heads, you know, Johnny Lawrence, Daniel LaRusso, John Kreese. They're all great. They pretty much play the role I thought they would. I really love how, for the first time in Daniel's life, he's being called out for all the stupid shit he does, and he's actually being labeled by some people the bad guy. It's also really interesting to see his built-up anger and lust for Cobra Kai. He only sees them at face value and truly believes that they can't change. Johnny Lawrence also has massive character growth. It's because of Miguel that he's able to see that the lessons he was taught are not morally okay. This also shows the audience that anything named Cobra Kai doesn't mean it's automatically bad by default. Okay, I'm gonna talk about my issues with the characters now, and there's a lot. So fasten your seatbelt. My real problems are with the kids, and there are so many. There are so many children. Okay, I'm gonna try to cover my grounds here. Okay, we have Miguel, Sam, Robbie, Hawk, Tori, Dimitri, Aisha, Stingray, the chubby guys, the nerdy guys, and the mean guys. I think that was everyone. Not to mention all the background characters that constantly switch out. I don't know any of their names. I don't even think they're mentioned either. Aisha and Stingray got cut from season 3, and I'm not entirely sure why. Stingray was annoying, and I didn't even notice he was gone, but Aisha was actually an interesting character. She was also the first girl in the franchise that did karate. Again, I have no recollection of any fourth movie with a very specific girl. Anyway, I'm upset that she wasn't of greater importance in the show because I feel like she had a lot of potential, especially in the beginning. But due to lack of writing for this character, I didn't even notice that she was missing from season 3. And maybe that's why they cut her. But if it is, then the writers could have definitely redeemed Aisha. The chubby guys and the nerdy guys were definitely only added for inclusivity and diversity, which is fine, but if you're gonna do it right. They just feel like a waste of space. I don't even remember any of their names. Except for this guy, it's like ass breath or penis face or something like that. The mean guys are just there to push our main characters. When they learn karate, the mean guys kind of become obsolete and disappear. They really only show up when the plot needs them to. Now, Dimitri isn't a bad character. In fact, he's one of my favorites. He just feels like a knockoff Milton from Kickin' It. I'm glad they added a nerd with absolutely no physical experience, but that's already been done before in a very similar fashion. I also don't like how he's now dating the hottest girl in school. He's experienced a lot of trauma with high school bullies. It doesn't make sense that he's now dating one. How are you gonna tell me that the only thing that makes them compatible, or the only thing that they can relate to, is getting a wedgie? That doesn't make any sense. Hawk I have a special distaste for, just because this show expects me to believe that a kid who's been presumably bullied his entire life for a physical appearance just does a 180 and becomes the bad guy. Like, I understand the whole live long enough to see yourself become the villain phrase, but this dude's only 17. I don't think that qualifies him. I don't know, I could be dense, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, and to top it all off, spoiler, he does a 180 again and becomes good in season 3. Oh, and also he's just a prick, so.
Are they hear how you're saying it? And I don't like it.
Tori feels like she was just added to be Sam's counterpart. Speaking of Sam, I don't see her relative purpose in the show, besides for making things difficult between Miguel and Robbie. I don't know, man. I just feel like the female characters in this show are severely underwritten. They don't serve any purpose other than fighting each other. Now, Robbie is an okay character. I like him in the beginning of season 1. He's like this bad guy who's only bad because his dad was absent throughout his entire life. But again, the 180 thing. He just completely flips around and becomes good as soon as he meets LaRusso. The show doesn't give him any time to grow or develop and become, you know, an actually good person. He just kind of flips spontaneously. It's weird. Now, thankfully, this ends up getting fixed in season 3. He does another 180, but this time they give him time to develop and grow into the 180 he does. He's basically a modern day Anakin, so I'm not complaining. Okay, slight tangent. They should make a show called Karate Robbie. That is all. And saving the best for last, we have Miguel. I personally love Miguel. He's funny, he's charismatic, and he's relatable, which is the most important trait to have in a character. Miguel and Johnny's relationship feels like the complete opposite of Mr. Miyagi and Daniel's relationship, and I think that's what makes it feel so special. Johnny may know more about karate, but Miguel is definitely more mature. It's also hilarious how Johnny knows nothing about technology because he's trapped in the 80s. Well, Miguel kind of has to teach him a lesson or two.
You writing a novel?
I don't know, it's a Facebook message.
I especially like Miguel because instead of doing a 180 like Hawk, he doesn't stray away from his morals. He stays grounded to what he believes in while still learning and growing as a character. Even with all that character growth, I still gotta give this one to the Karate Kid. The Cobra Kai characters have a lot of good, but they also have a lot of bad, so much so that it kind of outweighs it. So for that reason, Cobra Kai, you have been chopped. Moving on to the fight scenes. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky because I have no experience with martial arts. With that being said, I'm going to be comparing the fights based on entertainment value and how realistic they are. Starting off with the Karate Kid. Now we don't even get to see Daniel fight until the start of the tournament, and some of you are going to hate me for this, but I didn't really find it entertaining. Back then I'm sure the fights were top of the line, but that's also because there was nothing really to compare it to. I think. Again, I wasn't alive. And of course, when you're a kid, you think the concept of fighting in itself is entertaining. When you watch the fight between Daniel and Johnny, it feels like you're just watching two kids in your local dojo fight for a trophy that means nothing. And I know that's what it is on the surface, but it's so much more on the inside. There's an emotional package that the movie is not able to deliver. And again, the reason it feels so bland is because of the lack of music the majority of the fight. Again, no suspense is built up, there's no inspirational flashbacks, it's just in the moment, which isn't enough in this case. Now throughout the rest of the movie, the fights do get a little bit more entertaining, the stakes increase, but even that doesn't do enough.
This will be okay. Hey! This!
The last fight of the third movie looks identical to the last fight of the first movie. And they say all Asians look the same. Now, one thing I do want to point out, the fight choreography is really well done. Again, from a non-martial arts perspective, they do a really good job, and it feels really realistic. That's exactly how teenagers are supposed to look after they learn karate. Daniel's not supposed to be insanely good. He's supposed to be average. He just learned karate a few weeks prior to the tournament. He's not supposed to be a god. But even with all that, it's still boring as shit. I'm gonna get doxxed so hard. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Cobra Kai. First off, the fight scenes are so entertaining. They're like edge of my seat entertaining. But what they are not is realistic. Good, yes. Teenage karate? I don't think so. Again, I have no experience with martial arts, but half the stuff that those kids do looks like it's supposed to be on a professional level. They look like they've been learning karate for years, not weeks or months. In the first season, Robbie pulls off this insane, like, 2-foot kick that Daniel couldn't even pull off. He's been doing karate for, like, what, 30 years? Now, unrealistic stuff aside, the fight scenes are really well done. There's musical suspense, inspirational flashbacks, and your occasional corny line.
You're going down, nerd. Come and get it, dickhead.
Who are you? The best fight by far is the school fight. There's no competition. A fluidity and emotion in that scene are just unmatched. There's nothing like it in the whole show. And not to mention the ending. It's jaw-dropping, tear-dropping, and ball-dropping. I actually put that in the script. So there we have it, Cobra Kai, the ultimate champion. Now, realistically, there is no winner, both the show and TV show are great in their own ways. Again, if you have any opposing opinions besides Daniel being a bully, be sure to let me know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time, where I build an army of karate kids and storm the Capitol. Yeah, that's it.